I think we're just about ready to start. If anybody missed the fact that I'm not Talia, hey. I think it's pretty obvious, but I feel I should just keep emphasizing it. So today with us, we've got Magda, and she's going to talk to us about Google Tag Manager. And I'm going to let her introduce herself because she's going to do a much better job of it.
Thank you, Sophia. So I'm going to share the screen now. Desktop, let me do this. So I think you are seeing the screen, right?
Yeah, and yeah, let me know if you guys are seeing everything, if you're hearing everything, if you have any issues. Yeah, take it away.
Great, so let's get started. So thank you, Sophia, for having me as a guest. You know that I highly appreciate the work you are doing at Get Uplift, so I'm very happy to be here. Before digging into the workshop details, I'm going to tell you a few words about myself. So a few years, I noticed that I love three specific areas that are like online marketing, data analytics, and psychology. So I thought that the perfect job for me would be a job that brings these three main areas together. So here we are. Three years ago, I founded House of Progress, where me and my team and I are helping businesses to increase their revenue through a few areas of expertise. We specifically help companies to design and implement really comprehensive data analytics measurement plans. We also conduct qualitative and quantitative research. And then we are also building paid funnels from end to end. We know that bringing data and creativity together is not anymore a nice thing to have, it's a must. And that's why we are all here. Going back to our topic for today, we are going to dig in and show you a few GTM setups that helps you to get additional data into our Google Analytics, and more specifically engagement metrics that are going to be very, very useful to inform your decisions. And the way we will go about it is that I'm going to explain you a bit about the GTM just to make sure that we are aligned and we understand its value. And then slowly we'll get into the user engagement setups that I built for you, and we will explain the reasoning behind. Good, so why GTM? Because GTM is not on the market for the last 10 years, it's only for the last few years. And what GTM is actually, it's a tag management system which manages tags used for tracking analytics purposes from one single place. So what does that mean? We know that when we have to implement heat maps, A/B testing tools, pixels, events, goals in Google Analytics, and all these things, you have to connect them in a way with your website. And what's the old way of doing it? It's simply taking a lot of code snippets and putting them on the back end of your website pages. But that's not very efficient, and I'm going to explain you why. And the new way is to simply not take each code snippet and put it on the website, but take all of them and place it in a container in a Google Tag Manager. To be more specific, before GTM, the way that marketers were doing it was to simply take each code snippet for every event or for every Facebook pixel or anything you should be tracking in there and put on each page on the back of the website. But now, given that we have GTM, and this is a tool that's very efficient, you can directly go into your GTM account and only work from here and implement all the setups you need directly from a nice interface, not asking each time your developer to go through and place all over again snippet by snippet on each page. So that's why we are mainly using GTM, but there are also a few more additional benefits. So it's a huge time saver, because let's say that there are websites that don't use a content management system like WordPress, where it's a bit easier to add custom tracking and tags, but you have like 200 pages. What will be the way to do it if you don't have GTM? You have to ask your developer to go in there every week and put an additional tag in the backup of the website. And for him would be a redundant task to place a script on each page. That's not something that's very enjoying to do. It's redundant, and generally developers postpone that, so your tracking is not getting implemented too soon. Then we know that we have already seen that's a nice interface to work with. It gets a bit of time to understand the main components of the GTM, but once you get that going, it's easy to work with. And also, given that you don't have a lot of tags, hard-coded code snippets on the website, it speeds up your website, because the code gets a bit lighter, and also it's the way how GTM loads every script, each script after the previous scripts were loaded. So it has a specific way that applies when it loads the scripts. So that's why the website is going to load way faster, and that we know that this is very important. And last but not least, it's free, because all the other tag management systems are pretty expensive. So this one, it's free. Before going to go through the setups, I like to mention a few things about the user engagement metrics, because these are generally not taken very serious, even if they are very important. And I see that in my day-to-day job, and I see that in the results. So we generally are interested in the bigger goal, the bigger objective, right? To increase the revenue. And that's what the end goal is also in here. But we have to understand that we have to have a better understanding of the micro level behavior that's happening on the website, because how the things are working just impact the main objectives going from to bottom up. So the micro actions or the engagement metrics are going to affect the macro actions and macro goals, and then so far you're just keeping to impact the KPIs and the objectives of the business. So as you see, everything starts with the micro actions that are happening on the website, and they do tell you if the users are engaged or not. So this is where everything starts. And these specific small setups that are going to send you a lot of meaningful data into Google Analytics account can be used for advertising purposes. So you are going to target the most engaged audiences, and it's going to be way cheaper to acquire those clients. Then these kind of setups are helping you to understand behavior patterns on the website. You just have to understand what those that convert are doing on the website, so you can scale that and increase the conversion rate. And also another aspect that not many are aware of is that also product managers use this kind of data to come up with new product features, or simply to optimize the features they have. And one more aspect, and that's it. We're going to take setup by setup to explain you the reasoning behind, is that I want you to make sure that you are looking at the correct data, because we are doing a lot of audits on the data analytics side, and only 1 out of 10 businesses have on accurate tracking, and they're looking at correct tracking. Most of the times it's duplicate code that really impacts data accuracy. It's the lack of cross-domain tracking, lack of subdomain tracking, and all the other analytic setups that should be there, but they are not. So not only sometimes the data accuracy is impacted, it's highly impacted, but also sometimes it's about investing loads of additional time in answering a question. For example, I was working this week to answer a few questions for a client, and instead of spending 10 minutes to get a report, I spent around 6 hours, because we had some data limitations. We are having in there query parameters that were not stripped, and there were so many tweaks I had to go around to really get the correct data and answer the questions in a correct manner. So it's very important to have the setups, data accuracy setups in the right way. So cool, we are ready to go. We have 5 GTM setups we are going to go through, explain you the reasoning behind, and some use cases for each one. Just to make sure you understand that we have this container, GTM container, that you can simply import into your Google account, into a Google Tag Manager account. So all the setups are done in there. You can simply import in your account and adapt them. You have to make sure that you are going to test and adapt the setups, because they vary a bit from website to website, from the website structure to another website structure, but you will see the reasoning very clearly in there, and you can easily apply on the website. If it's necessary, please also ask a colleague that it's more technical to test the tags. These are the tags you are going to see after importing the container. So the first one we are going to look at, it's a very interesting one, the scroll depth and time spent event, because this is not only sending valuable data into Google Analytics, but also it solves a data accuracy issue that Google Analytics has by default. And let me explain you why. So let's say that we have this context that's happening in 2 different sessions on 2 different pages, let's say, or on the same page. So a visitor lands on an article page, spends 15 minutes reading it, then exits the website without visiting a second page. So Google Analytics registered the data differently if there's no tags implemented, there's no tag implemented, or if there's a tag implemented. So if by default, if there's nothing you have implemented in Google Analytics, if we are considering this specific behavior, like somebody that came on one page, spent 15 minutes in there but didn't go to the second page, Google Analytics is going to tell you that the visitor spent 0 minutes on the website and bounced. But if you want to really send accurate data and tell to Google Analytics that the visitor spent 15 minutes, and it's an engaged visitor, somebody that is in there for 50 minutes and scrolls at least 65% of the page, it's an engaged visitor. So only by having this tag implemented, Google Analytics will track the correct data. Just I wanted to make sure that you understand that this is also a tag that helps you on the data accuracy. But of course, we also want to send an event in Google Analytics, and the event works like this. The event is going to be sent in Google Analytics when these 2 triggers are going to happen. The scroll depth is going to be more than 65%, and the time spent on the page is going to be more than 1 minute. The event is not going to be sent if only one of these triggers is achieved, but only if both of them are happening. Why? Because if somebody is going to just simply scroll 80% of the page, but is going to bounce within 10 seconds, that's not an engaged visitor. Or if the users opens the page and simply leaves it in there without scrolling at least 10%, that again is not an engaged visitor. So that's why I set up these two triggers that are this is data that is going to show up in Google Analytics. This is a very basic report, but of course you can combine the event action with multiple variables. It might be the page, it might be the source, the channel, the device, and so on. And also it's about what are the metrics that you are adding to the report. So for example, if we are looking at this specific report, we can see what are the pages where the people are most engaged and the action is it's happening, the event action is happening. A few use cases, you can only retarget because the Google Analytics now knows which is scrolling more than 65% and spends more than 1 minute. You can now only target these engaged customers through advertising, and you can show them the exact content they are interested in, like content, products they visited before. Also, it's a nice way to understand what are the topics, what are the pages, the types of content that get the attention of the audience, and you have to scale more of that. It might be that it's about a few articles you have on the blog and you want to build more content, but you don't know what's getting the attention. So it's a very useful and efficient way to do it. The next event or GTM engagement setup that we want to look at is the social sharing event. So let's say that we want to find out what content we should distribute, repurpose, or advertise on specific social media channels. And then we also want to find out what are the characteristics of the visitors who are sharing the content. So the channels they are coming from, how they are behaving on the website, and so on. So we can know what kind of visitors we have to attract in the near future, so they share more of our content. So this is the GTM setup we are having in there. It's a tag, and we are going to see this kind of data in Google Analytics, and we'll see where a specific social media share was happening on what page. And of course, you can look at the data and answer a lot of questions by combining the event actions with different variables and metrics, goals, and so on. The next one, it's a very interesting one. I'm going to show you how we apply on the House of Progress website. So how we are going to track the drop-down list selection. Let's say that we have this kind of form on the website. It's a sign-up form, and want to understand what's the job area of the people that are interested in the content we are offering and the information we are putting on the website. So let's say that use cases are like we want to understand in what specific groups the visitors fall in terms of job role they have. Also, we want to create meaningful content for the top roles that are visiting the website according to the job challenges they have in the analytics area. And then also we want to target visitors on social media channels in a personalized manner. I'm not going to speak with an entrepreneur the way I'm speaking with a data analyst person, because it's a different language. So that's the way it's possible to reach out in a personalized way. So for this specific event that's going to be sending Google Analytics, we have 2 tags. This is a more complex implementation, so we had to combine 2 GTM tags. And then this is the way we are going to see the data in Google Analytics. We can see that the event category has the same name. It makes sense. And then the event action is how many of the people that were engaging with the sign-up form were in advertising, were data analysts, entrepreneurs, and so on. Again, a lot of questions can be answered, depends on what you want to find out. Another very interesting setup, engagement setups, especially very useful for the blog section, would be to find out which are the blog posts that have the most comments. This is the question you can answer with Google Analytics, and then you have to dig a bit more to understand why that's happening, and to analyze the types of articles that are getting the most, a very high percentage of comments rate. So the tag that you're going to see in the container, it looks like this. It's form comments tag, and then you are going to see this way. The data is going to be shown in this way in Google Analytics. If you want to see what pages are getting the most comments, you have to simply combine the event category with a secondary dimension like page. And last but not least, we have a sign up event. This is a traditional button click event. If you are going to look at this one, you can take the tag and adapt it for more types of button clicks. It's not only available only for this sign up button. So this is the kind of implementation you are doing it regardless of the button you want to track. So let's say that you have multiple sign up buttons, sign up CTAs across the website, in header, your section, sidebar, content upgrade, and so on. And you want to find out which one does work. So to know which one you have to emphasize a bit more, and which ones you have to simply give up, because what's the meaning to have something in there if it doesn't work? It simply loads the page, and it loses the attention of the visitors. Another question, another thing we might be curious to find out is if there is a sign up CTA that's placed on many pages. You want to find out which pages are bringing in the most signups. And then we have this specific GTM tag. That's also, it's a tag that's sent as an event in Google Tag on Google Analytics. And you merely can also play with reports and see which are the questions you wanted to ask, and see where the signups are happening. Again, dig in more to answer, to see why that's happening. Before taking a closer look at what will be the next steps for you to leverage this kind of setups and to make and to extract insightful and actionable data, I wanted to mention that after you are looking at this kind of report and you want to really understand and correctly answer the questions, you have also to understand the context of the data. So for example, conducting a few surveys on the website, implementing heat maps in there, running a few customer interviews. So you really understand, because as you saw in there, like if we are going to ask ourselves on what pages the people are commenting the most. Is that enough of an answer to say that's happening on this specific page? It's not. It's also you have to understand and to take a look at the pages to understand why that's happening. To understand what kind of people are visiting the web page and dig a bit more to have a comprehensive answer to your questions. So my main idea is to give a bit more context to the data, not only looking at the numbers in there, because it's so valuable and meaningful way to do this. You might be asking, okay, we are doing a lot of implementation, be it it's engagement setups or being that it's macro goals that you're tracking in Google Analytics, but there's a lot of data. So apart from these simple questions we are asking above, there are so many ways to look at data and to find meaningful insights. My recommendation would be to firstly choose the most challenging issues that your website online business has when it comes to bringing to bring more qualified traffic or to increase the conversion rate on the website. Then start with building a list of top 5 to 10 meaningful micro or macro actions to track on the website. Implement those tracking. You can start with importing the setups I presented above. Just import them and adapt it for your website and wait for the data to come in. It might be a few weeks, it might be 2 3 months. It depends on the amount of traffic your business gets monthly. And then you have to start asking questions and digging into your data. The way we are generally doing that is that we start with data segmentation strategy. And we have a framework we are following, and I'm going to share with you and to give you access to a strategy framework example, so you understand how to find out those meaningful questions and how to not get overwhelmed by so much data. So you're going to see in the framework I'm going to share with you that in order to find the best questions, you have to combine the kind of micro engagement setups we have mentioned above. Also, you have to combine these setups and metrics, micrometrics, with variables like device, source, channel, gender, age, and so many other things, just to come up with meaningful questions. If someone is curious to take a look now during the Q&A time, I can show you directly, but just to make sure, we have in here a link to the segmentation framework, where you are going to see an example of how we are going about asking questions, meaningful data analytics questions. And then also we have this link to the GTM container you can import directly into your GTM account and adapt the setups for your website. So this is all I have on my website, and I have on my side, and then we can just jump into the Q&A and show you more slides if that's necessary to be more clear on the slides I presented above. Yeah. So, Sophia?
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long did that take. Yeah, we are.
No, it was awesome. That was so interesting. It's so in depth, and it makes me realize how much more I need to learn about Google Tag Manager.
Yeah, I'm just telling myself that after 5 years, I'm just keeping telling myself so how much is to be learning in the area of data analytics, and yeah.
Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Wait, actually, if you're going to show them stuff, maybe no, hang on. Yeah, we can, Karen, we can share the URLs in the chat. I will Do you have those handy, Magda?
Yeah, I can share this. I think I have to stop. So I have to stop sharing, and then if somebody wants to take a look at a few more things, I can share it again. So let's see the questions.
So I have 2 questions. So, and guys, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. So we have from Cow. He says, I have a WordPress site and found the GTM slowed the site down, particularly page load speeds, which affects SEO scores and user experience. Are you saying the GTM is quicker than the alternative? So writing code snippets for each page? It doesn't speed the site up, just doesn't slow it down as much as the alternative.
Yeah, so there's so many things that impact the load page time. I'm not sure it's only about the GTM, and I will say that for sure having the GTM on your website is better than having a lot of scripts on the website, because also the way that GTM works, it's the code snippets are loaded in an asynchronous way. So before the visitor sees the page, GTM doesn't wait to load 100% all those scripts. It simply loads them one by one, and at the same time also it shows the page. But if you have the scripts hard-coded, the visitor has to wait for all the scripts to load 100% one by one, and only after the first script is 100% loaded, the second one is going to be loaded. So it's in a synchronous way, and for sure the GTM is a better way to improve the load page timing. But there's so many things that impacts that, especially when you're using WordPress. Pay attention to the plugins you are using, because if you're having loads of them, it might also impact the load time. If you one advice I have, please use the page speed insights Google tool. That's going to tell you specifically what affects the load time. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Carol says thanks. Okay, awesome. So Neha asks, how do you look for duplicated codes if the client isn't using GTM yet?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I have a very comprehensive article I'm going to share with you that specifically it's an article about duplicated code, how you can find if you have duplicated code, how the sessions and metrics are affected by duplicate code. So 1 second, I'm going to share the article in the chat because it's a very thorough one. If you are just to briefly answer the question, you can use tools like GA Checker. It's also mentioned in the article. And GA Checker is going to tell you if you have duplicated code. Also, you'll see within the article that is the Google Assistant that's also telling you if you have duplicated code issues. 1 second. Measure. Okay, so this is the article. It's very clear and easy to understand how to find issues with duplicated code. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Vic shared the GTM manager that she uses in WordPress. So have you used that one before?
So what was the question? Sorry.
No, Vic just shared the GTM manager that she uses in WordPress, or just I think it's called the Google Tag Manager for WordPress.
Google Tag. This is a plugin. Yeah. I do recommend to not use plugins for implementing Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics. The right way is to put only the tag manager, the Google Tag Manager tag, the tracking snippet directly on the website, and then anything apart from this specific tag you are going to put within the Google Tag Manager container. But I recommend you to directly implement the GTM script directly on the website, hard-coded. This is the only tag I recommend to hard-code it, not through plugins. There are so many plugins, they have issues. So it's the safest way to go about it.
Cool. So Vic was saying, what GTM manager do you use? So you don't use one?
No, generally, yeah, this plugin does what you're talking about. Yeah, I will not use plugins for implementing GTM on WordPress. That would be my answer to this. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Well, those are all the questions. So let us know if you guys have any other questions. If not, we're just going to wrap this up short and sweet. As usual, this will be up on the blog. It may take us like a little longer than normal. It's usually up by Friday, and we'll just put it up as soon as we can, but it may go into next week. So thanks again, everyone, for
one aspect. I like to leave my email address. So if you guys have any questions, please send them to my email, so I can share with you and guide you if you have any specific issues. Yeah. Progress. That's all. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Sofia.
Okay. Thanks, guys, and thanks, Magda, and we'll see you again next week. Cool.
Speak soon.
Bye.
Oh,
wait, hang on, there was a question. Okay. Wait, so Yusuf says, I use a code snippet which disables GTM for logged in admins. Is this okay?
Disables GTM for login admins. What do you mean by logged in admins? Your visitors that are logging in into your dashboards, or the people that are logged in WordPress? If you can give me a bit. I suppose that's for logged in visitors that are just signing in the dashboard. Is that right, Yosef? If I'm logged in WordPress. That's interesting. It's for me, it sounds like it's a filter that simply filters the people that are working with the WordPress. I'm not sure why you are using it. What was the purpose for this? Because I don't see it. Like, if you want to make sure that the data and the test you are doing in Google Analytics. I'm an admin working on the website, so I suppose for the data accuracy purposes, you simply don't want to have your test and your behavior in Google Analytics. So the way we are doing it is we simply implement a Google Analytics filter that excludes the IP of the people we are working with, people from agencies, developers, and so on. So that's the way we are doing it. If you also have a code snippet that enables that, that's good, but the best way is just to simply implement a filter without adding additional code on the website, because that's the meaning of the IP filters in Google Analytics. So I recommend you to not only do that for yourself to exclude you from the usual traffic, but also exclude the agencies you are working with, developers, subcontractors, and so on. So gather all those IPs and set up a filter for them to exclude from the usual traffic. Yeah, thanks for asking the questions. If you have any additional questions, please send them across, and I'm going to answer within maximum a few days. Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks again. Just time bye for real, guys, and thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Magda.
You too. Thanks. Bye.